If you clicked on this video, chances are you've heard of dehancer, and you're either thinking of buying it or you've already bought it and are looking to know how to use the plugin. I'm here to walk you through my experience with dehancer film emulation on Premiere Pro. And if for some reason you're not in those groups, dehancer is a film emulation plugin available for video editing software such as Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro, and even has compatibility with Photoshop and Lightroom for image editing. They also have an application for iPhone users on the App Store if you feel like editing on your phone, which we will get into later. If you're like me, a film lover, you've probably searched far and wide for ways to make your digital footage look filmic. And today I'm here to give you an honest review of dehancer. So wasting no more time, let's get right into it. So here we have just some footage I shot for a short film. And we're going to be editing with dehancer. Now, disclaimer, I have been using dehancer for a lot of short cinematic films that I've been shooting over the past month. So this isn't like a first time review. This is more of like, let me get comfortable with the plugin and then give you an honest review of the plugin. But anyway, like I said, this is some footage from a short film that I shot. And to find dehancer, you just go to effects, of course, after you install it into whatever software you use. And if you're on Premiere Pro, you just go into effects, search dehancer, and it's under video effects, film emulation. You literally just drag and drop. The easiest thing in the world. And it'll pop up in the effect controls panel. You just scroll down to where you see dehancer Pro and then whatever version you have. Now, one of the coolest parts of dehancer is that you can select your own camera. Of course, if you shoot in Rec 709 or Rec 2020, you click the respective option for what you shoot in. Me, however, I shoot in S-Log, so I will select my own camera and I shoot with a Sony FX30. They have all these different options. They have every brand, Blackmagic, Canon, Fujifilm, everything. But as I mentioned, I shoot with the FX30. So, and this is what I shoot in. I shoot Cine ISO 800. So boom, our footage is corrected now so we can edit properly. So I'll just go down and cover most of what dehancer is. If you want a more in-depth like summary of what each thing does, go to their website and they have, you know, brief descriptions under everything, but I'll try my best to tell you what they are. So one of the most important things in the film emulation is obviously the film profile. And at first glance, you can get a little overwhelmed. It's over 60 film profiles. They have Kodak, Fujifilm, literally almost everything you can think of. For this example in this review, we're going to keep it simple and we're going to just be using the 250D. I love the 250D. Another personal favorite of mine is Fujicolor 100. Call me basic, but it's what looks the best, in my opinion, of course. But we're going to be editing with 250D. We'll actually, I got two clips here. We'll edit 250D here, and we'll edit another one. We'll edit it with another profile for the second clip. But back to the first one, you have push-pull. So push, obviously, is underexposing your image, and pulling is overexposing. Very simple. And if you're like me and you get overwhelmed with so many options, I always close the carrots. Always close the drop downs. It just keeps everything organized. You can see here, everything is well compacted. Everything is in one spot. And I love that about this plugin. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to go through every single thing, but to make the shot look how I want, I will go through. So film developer, obviously enable it if you're going to be editing. Color boost is literally what it says. It's just boosting the color. I like to boost a little bit. I don't like to boost a lot. I like to boost a little bit. So 17 looks cool to me. I'm around that 15 to 25 range. Just depends on what it is. But as I mentioned, I'm not going to go through every single drop down. But the second most important drop down here is print. And if you come down to the print profile, you have 5 different options. Linear, you have Cine on Film Log, you have Fujifilm, Kodak, 2383, and then you have glossy paper. Me personally, I love the glossy paper, but to each their own. It's all subjective. You know, you want your film to look a certain way, so you pick the one that benefits you the most. Now, if I'm not satisfied with the color, you can come down to color density and you can tell. I mean, literally, if you don't know what anything is, just come down to this caret drag left and right, you can clearly see what everything does. But you can tell already that this footage looks filmic. So moving down to the color head, this is where you can adjust individual colors, color ranges, color groups. So if you're not happy with how certain colors look, or you want to boost other colors, tones, whatever, of course, enable it first always, and you can just drag and drop, and you can give stuff different tones, and you can just really be meticulous with how you want your film to look. Me personally, I love a little bit of magenta, just a little bit, not a lot, but every footage is different. You can change the shadows, midtones, highlight. You have so much control over everything with this plugin. It's actually absurd. I like to turn the shadows down a bit. This looks good to me. I accidentally hit my space bar. I'm not going to touch the highlights right now. What I'm going to do is correct the white balance. So I know a pool cue is white. Boom. Now the shirt looks white instead of that yellowish hue that it had. But that's color head. Color head is one of the most important. I keep saying that about all of them. Everything is important here, but color head is up there with the most important of the tabs. So make sure you tap into color head and adjust how you would like. Now, film grain. This is more than likely your reason why you want this plugin. Dehancer has incredible film grain. Incredible film grain. They have all these different options. You know, the higher the number, obviously, the more less the effects are. So if I do 65 millimeter, clearly the film grain is not as present. But if I were to go to 8, you can clearly see the difference. But what Dehancer does very well that I really do appreciate is custom. So you can customize your own film grain, which blew my mind whenever I first got my hands on this product. At first, I tended to overdo the film grain. I, wanted that filmic look so bad. What is film? It's film grain. But I've learned to control myself a little bit more with the film grain. So I like to hover around 6 to 10 amount. Anywhere around 20 is comfortable for me. And this is just a general rule of thumb, of course. You may like a lot of film grain. You may like huge film grain. But everybody has their own cup of tea. You can change film resolution. You can change where the grain is and the shadows and the midtones and the highlights. I'm going to keep this how it is. I like the size and amount. It looks good to me. Just do a little play. It looks, it doesn't intrude the image. One thing that Dehancer does very, very well is it integrates the grain into the footage. So it doesn't look like it's on top of it. It's cheesy. It looks as if it is inside the footage. Now moving on to halation and bloom. Halation is the red blur over and around the highlights. So if we were to go ahead and enable it, you may not be able to see as much. I'll just do this for right now so you can see what halation is. It is the red glow around highlights. You can see it around the cue. You can see it around his head, the shirt. You can see it around every single ball here. I don't like that much halation. I think the Super 35 is a good spot. You can enable and disable to, go back and forth. That's actually not enough for this shot in particular for me. But again, Dehancer does the custom. So you can go here, you can customize your own halation. Now, the local diffusion is what's going to be the more red look, the more halation, as well as the global. So these are your main two settings as far as like I need more, I need less. That is where you would like to go. Obviously, amplify is amplifying the colors itself. And you can even change the hue of the glow. We're going to keep it on Super 16 for now, and we're going to move down to bloom. Bloom is going to be softening the highlights, the skin tones, and things of that nature. So let me go ahead and enable, and you can already tell the image just looks softer. It's not blurry, but it is blurred. You go down to 8, the more blurry it is. 65, the less. I like to keep mine in tune with my halation. It may not have an effect. I'm not sure. Somebody can correct me on that or inform me on that. But I like to keep mine in tune with halation. So 16, Super 16 on halation. I'm going to do Super 16 on the bloom. And again, if you want to get meticulous, you can customize it to your liking. But I'm going to keep it Super 16 and we're going to move down to film damage. Now, film damage is one of the coolest features on here. So as you can tell, the specs, the white specs that are popping up, if you go down to 8, the more drastic it is. It is the quote unquote film damage, really. I mean, it's in the name. I don't really ever use this, but if I were to, I would keep it super, super minimal. Keep it 65, you know, white specks here and there around the image, not a lot. But again, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, dehancer allows you to customize everything. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off because I don't really use it a lot. I don't really find a need for it. It's definitely an artistic choice with what you're shooting, but for this, I am not going to use it. Moving down to vignette. So vignette is, you know, the black around the edges. And again, you can customize it to your liking. The exposure, I don't know why you would ever want to go this high with the exposure, but you can if you want to. But I keep mine, you know, usually normal. You can change the size of it, how much it feathers. So if you want a scope look, you can do so. I like mine around 80, not too harsh, not too soft. I like it there, and of course you can move it wherever you would like it. So keep mine in the middle. Is usually where you're focused at is in the middle. So vignette is super important for me. I love it. I'm glad dehancer has its own version in the plugin. So moving down, the cherry on the top is the LUT generator. All this work you've put in, I don't want to do it again. I don't want to put it on this, blah, blah, blah. You can export it as a LUT. There are 2 sizes, small and normal, and you literally just click export LUT, name it whatever you want, and it saves as a cube file, so you can simply import it as a lookup table. And just like that, you have gone through all of the options for dehancer. I like how this looks a lot as far as film goes. Now, just for a little bit of color correction, you know, turn the contrast up a little bit, highlights down, whites down a little bit. That does look a little too dark, but for what we're doing here, it looks fine. And this is what you get. A filmic look. And now let's move on to the second clip. So this one is drastically different. Let me go ahead and drag the dehancer on it. Go down to it, and whenever you drag it on it, you're gonna get this, you know, you're gonna get this blue greenish hue to it. Don't trip out. It's normal. Always make sure you're putting your source to what you shot in. Again, FX30. And before I do any editing, I'm going to correct this footage just because of how overexposed it is right now. And dehancer has an option to adjust the exposure here. I'm actually going to use dehancer for the exposure because, believe it or not, the exposure comp is actually better than Premiere Pro's. I'm obviously going to make this image darker. Compare it to 0.9 here versus 0.9 here. You can clearly see the difference. I have more color. It just looks better. It's not drowned out with light. It actually looks a lot better than the Premiere Pro. I like to dibble dabble though. The contrast I really like in Premiere Pro, and color grading for me is a lot of contrast. I can't edit without contrast, so turn the highlights down a bit, whites down as well. Just give it a darker look, and we're going to go down to the film. We're gonna go up to my other favorite, Fujifilm 100. And we may push this a little bit. Yeah, 0.4 looks good to me. And now down to the print. So the 3515, this is a very still pretty washed out look. So there's more color grading to be done. I may turn down the exposure just a bit more. 1.2 looks good to me. And maybe turn the exposure down in the print itself. That looks good. Go up to the color boost, enable, add some color to this. This looks like a cold, like winter day, but it was actually one of the hottest days filming this. So down to the color head, I mentioned the magentas, especially with this film. I'm going to want to keep everything cohesive. So a bit of the magentas. This looks good to me. And now our favorite part, the film grain. Custom, of course. I'll do a little bit more this time. So I think I had 8 on the last clip. So we'll go up to 12 here on the size, and the amount we're gonna turn down a bit too. We're gonna go down to about 25. It looks like, yeah, looks good to me. 24, shout out Kobe, and that's cool on the film grain for me. This is looking nice already. Haven't even added the halation. Let's go to the halation. Way too much. The Super 16 looks good. I can't complain with it, and you know me, I like to match. You definitely don't have to match, but I like to match the bloom with the halation. It's kind of like a dynamic duo. Looks good to me. Down to the vignette. Enable, of course. Just adding more focus to the subject in the middle. And boom. Now, this isn't perfectly color graded. If this were the actual short film, maybe I turn the saturation up a bit. The temperature is leaning super warm. Very, very warm. So maybe I make the sky a little bit bluer. And I like this. I'm not gonna lie, I like this. All right, so now the time that you've been waiting for, is dehancer worth it? I officially give it a thumbs up. I think dehancer film emulation is the best film emulation on the market, and it comes at a hefty price, but I truly do think that it is worth it. And if that price is too much, they sell things by themselves. They sell the film grain by itself. They have a light version if you can't afford the entire thing. And that light version does come with the 63 film profiles. It comes with the film grain, the bloom, defringe, vignette, and it has the color head with print toning. You can buy the bloom by itself. You can buy the film breath, film damage overscan by itself. You can buy the halation by itself, and you can even buy the monitor by itself. I truly do suggest getting dehancer film emulation if you're wanting to make your digital footage look filmic for a magnitude of reasons, but the most being is that it's authentic. It's real. It makes your footage look as if you shot it on film. And that is everything that I've wanted since I have picked up a cinema camera. And as I mentioned, dehancer does have an app in the App Store. It's called dehancer color grading. You can get it on the iPhone. And if you're on Android, you can go to dehancer online and use that. But it is basically dehancer on your phone. And you see here it has different film profiles. It has the presets, the film grain, has print tools, film compression, halation, bloom, vignette, and the film breath and gate weave. If you're looking to do some mobile editing, you can head over to the App Store now and get dehancer color grading. But I do want to thank dehancer so very much for letting me test out their plugin. I hope that this review has been helpful for you guys as a company. I've fallen in love with the plugin, and I will be using it and have used it on 2 cinematics that I dropped on my channel already. One of my sister, her video portrait, and then of the eclipse as well. So if you want to check out footage, please go check out those as well, those videos. But very, very huge thanks to dehancer for letting me test out their plugin. We'll be using it in every single thing that I shoot. I've completely fallen in love with it. So if you want to, you can use my code Dalton for 10% off of your purchase on dehancer. Would be greatly appreciated. Also, thank you for letting me be an affiliate. It means a lot. But that's going to be it. Hope that you guys found this review helpful. And I hope that the tutorial, it's not really a tutorial, but me walking through has hopefully cleared up whatever you were confused about. So before I break my entire setup, I'm going to get out of here. New videos coming soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.